2 weeks, 2 L's. Welcome to Big Blue Avenue, folks. My name is Tom Scavetta, joined alongside my co-host, as always, Sam Cardona Norberg. Sam, looking sharp tonight. How are you doing? 0-2, it sucks, but there is a little bit of good to take away from this game.
Yeah, it's like, yes, we are 0-2. We didn't win any games yet, but huge improvement last week. I saw such a great, offensive scheme going on here. I know we have a couple things to discuss in terms of other areas of the team, but yeah, no, I was thrilled to see not one, not two, but 3 touchdowns. Like, such a huge deal for us, which is crazy to say because some teams score 3 touchdowns no matter what every week, but for us, it's a pretty big deal. So I'm pretty happy with what happened last week, despite the loss.
Absolutely. I think it was an interesting game, and I'm excited to talk about it. But, folks, first and foremost, if you're just joining us now, and if you like watching Sam and I every week, or if you're in for the first time, there's our social media below. You can follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Looking forward to this week's show. Next week, we'll be having our second divisional game against the Dallas Cowboys, so that should be very interesting. This week, we're here to talk about the Cleveland Browns, and I'm very excited to talk about this one. But first, without further ado, Sam, let's get to our Week 2 takeaways. And I'll be honest with you, losing to the Commanders stinks, but in the way that we did, I think makes it suck even more, right? I mean, not having a kicker ultimately cost us the game. And looking back at it, having only 52 players on the roster, I think puts a thorn in our side even more. And I think it makes a fair question, like, is this one on Brian Daboll, knowing Gano had a pre-existing injury going into Week 2? What do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of complicated, not really sure what goes on behind closed doors here. But at the end of the day, no matter who's making what calls, like, if you're the coach, you're kind of to blame. It's not like, I'm saying that Brian Daboll is the sole reason for everything that's going on in our team, but just in a leadership position, you take responsibility for that. That's just kind of the bottom line. But overall, I don't know. There's so many different factors that are going on with this, and that you were mentioning to me earlier before we went live. Like, I'm just like, I don't even know how this got all convoluted, but at the end of the day, our kicker was injured and we didn't have a kicker. It's like, where's the disconnect there? I don't understand why we can't just pull someone up from the practice squad. So yeah, I'd like to say Daboll, if not was the sole, he was part of the problem. And at the end of the day, like, you're the coach. You're the one who needs to make sure that we have everything we need to play a game.
Facts. I agree. And what's up, George Bristol? George says, hey, Tom, kickers on Dabes. Gano is banged up and has been for the last 3 years. Bad penalties against the Giants as well. Was there one against the Dory again? Like that deep bomb? I'm trying to remember. There was a bad penalty call against the Giants. A lot went wrong again this week, so I can't really pinpoint what exact play, but yeah, there was a couple penalties that really sucked. Not good. And I think the call on the opening kickoff, before the penalty happened, Sam, the returner was already halfway down the field. So it's not like we covered that well, leading to Gano's pulled hamstring. And then Brian Daboll got very defensive in the post-game interview about it.
I know. I saw, yeah.
Gano had a groin. He didn't have a hamstring. And I don't know if you saw Pat Leonard's question about job security. And Daboll answered the question, didn't acknowledge that part of the question. And then when the next reporter asked that question, he continued to stare at Pat Leonard and glare at him throughout the reporter's next question.
I think that it's just a known thing in the Giants world, no matter what you are, fan, coach, player, you just don't like Pat Leonard. I think that's just kind of the bottom line there. But, I think that I mean, we were talking about it last week with Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau, right? Like, not doing well with the media, and obviously, it's coming across the same way with our coach, not doing well or presenting himself the right way to the media. Maybe there's the connection there, maybe Dable isn't teaching his players the correct way, the correct media training. Not that that's his job, but, maybe they feel like it's easier to talk to media in the way they actually want to because that's what their coach does. So, yeah, I saw that and I was actually, like, taken aback. I was not expecting Brian Dable to be as defensive as he was, but yeah, but we definitely gotta get a little bit more disciplined with that. I know that the media can be a little tough. I work in media. I get what that's like. You're hounding them, but it's kind of the name of the game.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of media, one player who handles the media very well in New York is our quarterback, Daniel Jones.
He sure does.
Before we start saying, oh, he had this great game, okay, he didn't play great. He played well. He had a respectable NFL game. This is what you expect for a guy who's making $40 million a year. This is nothing to ride home about. This performance bought himself another 2 to 3 weeks, in my opinion, where we can put kind of the benching rumors to bed for the next couple weeks. 2 touchdown passes, one to Malik Nabers, one to Wan'Dale Robinson. I thought Jones was better. There were still a few passes, Sam, that he airmailed the deep ball to Malik. He was throwing it like 5 yards in front of him. But, I mean, Malik Nabers is that guy. He is that guy. You could see the emotion, the energy. 18 targets, Sam, 10 catches, 127 yards and a touchdown. We haven't seen that in quite a while from any Giants receiver.
It was like, I think I even texted you on Sunday, and I was like, does Daniel Jones watch Big Blue Avenue? Because I feel like he's taking everything into account that we talked about last week, which was use Malik Nabers, like that's like the bottom line. So, yeah, it was pretty fantastic. And the Malik Nabers touchdown was a sight to be seen. I was so stoked. Like, I was like, wow, like that's football. That's how you play football.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's what every other team, most teams in the NFL can do every week. And it's like, if we just did that, we'd be a pretty damn good football team. I don't know if we're making it to the Super Bowl right away, but like, that's a great starting point for us as a quote unquote rebuilding team. So I was thrilled to see Malik Nabers score a touchdown and Devin Singletary. Like, I was so excited. And I think it's still very funny that he wears number 26 because it was like kind of like a weird illusion to see a running back in Giants gear 26 score a touchdown for us that was not Saquon Barkley.
Last comment, because I can go forever, from George. Dable and Shane need to go. Wow. Oh. Okay. The Jones deal was bad. Saquon should have remained the Giant. So should X and Love. I disagree with Saquon because, I mean, look what he did Monday night in Philly. Super Bowl winning teams don't revolve their offense around a running back unless your name is Christian McCaffrey. And to be quite frank, Saquon is not that level at McCaffrey, and the 49ers also have a super team outside of 1 or 2 positions on their roster. So X and Love, you could argue that, yes, maybe they should have stayed, but they drafted Dane Belton. They developed him. They claimed Jason Pinnock off of waivers. And then they also went out and they drafted Tyler Nubin. So they drafted 2 rookies who have been serviceable and then replaced ultimately McKinney with Pinnock. The value of play isn't that much worse, and they're spending a lot less money. The issue, I think, right now is the cornerback position. X played every down, homie. Leader. Don't get me wrong, I miss X, but George, are you paying Xavier McKinney $17 million a year? I mean, look at the offensive line right now. You have me saying that Daniel Jones is not it. It's time to move on from Daniel Jones, George. You were right about Daniel Jones, okay? But we can now see that because of what's in front of him. Brian Attard, people advocating to overpay for a running back.
Something went wrong. Please try again.
As Siri hears me here. Apologies, Siri, as Siri joins the show, folks.
Yeah. Our special guest of the week.
George, look, I respect the opinion. I do. You might be right. I don't agree with it, though. I don't disagree with X being a leader, playing every down 100%. I would have much rather keep X with Barkley. Sam, I think you could agree. We were much more upset about McKinney going.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to speak on behalf of you. You tell me. Who are you more upset about ultimately? I think McKinney hurt the team more.
Than Saquon?
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe technically, yes. In terms of emotion, Saquon for sure. But you might be right in just the fact that just like statistically on the team, losing X was a little bit more than Saquon because except for that really, really great year like 2 years ago, we really weren't getting a lot from Saquon. Not that it was his fault, but entirely. But you know what I mean.
Let's get into Singletary stats from last week. And by the way, Brian, we hope to see you next Wednesday night for Big Blue Avenue, Giants Cowboys Week 4. Hope to have you on with us. Okay, so Singletary, let's take a look at this. 16 rushes for 95 yards and a touchdown. Yes, he had the ball popped out. But Sam, he leads all running backs in the NFL through 2 weeks with 10 forced missed tackles. And Singletary is a bruiser. He's going to run north and south. He is a veteran. He is cheap. He's not going to cost you a lot of money. And the game has changed. The game has changed. I mean, the Giants are not in a position. They were 6-11 last year. Dable's trying to keep his job. Okay, overpaying for Daniel Jones, sure, but you can't just let him walk after what he did in 2022. You can't. You want a playoff game with him. It made sense to pay him not that much money. At that time, though, in 2022, most Giants fans were on board with keeping Daniel Jones. I'd say over 50%.
I agree. Yeah. The Devin Singletary is probably one of the best moves we could have made this past offseason after obviously getting rid of Saquon Barkley. I do love the way that Singletary moves. I love the way that he just does what he needs to do. And I think that was something I talked about last week with, kind of like nickel and diming on the offense. We don't need to make outstanding plays every single play. Sometimes we just need to get a first down. And Devin Singletary is someone who can do that. I know on Sunday when we were discussing who our player of the week was going to be, I did mention Devin Singletary, and the reason why he's not our player of the week this week is because of the huge fumble that happened in that game. But if that didn't happen, I mean, phenomenal game from him. I was so happy with it. And you're right. Budget-wise, money-wise, kind of was a no-brainer, and I'm happy that we're having a run game that we've been needing for a while now in a way that isn't paying a god-awful amount of money.
I completely agree with you, Sam, and here comes the business angle of this all.
Oh, boy.
The playoff wins set the franchise back 5 years. They had no choice but to pay DJ and Saquon after that. Can't sell a base on wholesale changes after that, even though it really was the best thing for them. Brutal spot to be in because your hands were tied. I mean, Dable and Shane would have looked really bad if they let Jones and Saquon both go after 2022.
Yeah, no way. People would have been up in arms if that happened.
I love this conversation. I mean, I wasn't planning on having this conversation tonight, but I love that this is happening because, I mean, you look at the running backs that have won the Super Bowl, that have been on Super Bowl winning teams the last several years. I think, if I'm correct, since 2008, the highest paying running back made like less than $3 million a year, starting running back. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Something to think about. Something to think
That's
about. And I feel bad though for running backs because running backs, it's not an easy position to play. They get hurt a lot, and it's like kind of like the crappy end of the stick, you know?
mm-hmm.
So like I understand why some teams do pay running backs that much money. And I do understand why running backs kind of had that revolution a year or two ago where everybody was talking about getting paid
Right.
because they deserve to get paid, but financially it's just not a good investment. It's just kind of like it sucks for them just because that's just the way the game is played, unfortunately.
And here's why running backs should not get paid. Half the teams in the league should be looking to move on from their starting quarterback right now, including the Giants, in 2025 and beyond. The only quarterback in the NFC East that should not be looked to get moved on from is Jaden Daniels, in my personal opinion. I'm not saying Hurts, Dak, and Jones are bad quarterbacks. What I'm saying is look at the quarterbacks that have won the Super Bowl, right, over the last 10 years. It's been Brady, Mahomes. There was an outlier with Matthew Stafford, and there's definitely somebody I'm missing, but it's been Brady, Mahomes, Nick Foles,
Mhm.
and Matthew Stafford. Those have been the four quarterbacks to
Wow.
win the Super Bowl over the last 10 years,
It's crazy.
essentially.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Hassan Terrell, thank you very much for the comment. Let's get to the defense before we get into player of the week. And we'll make this quick because, I don't want to spend too much time on this game. But, Sam, I was never thrilled about the Shane Bowen hire.
Yes, I remember.
Brian Dable was literally reading off stats on Hard Knocks about his run defenses with the Tennessee Titans. But then the Giants proceeded to not draft any defensive tackles in this year's draft. They drafted one linebacker in the 6th round. I get it. They had other glaring needs in their face. But then don't hire Shane Bowen. That's my thing. Maybe they want to give him time. Maybe Mara's probably given them more time than we think. Because if you gave Dave Gettleman 4 years, Dable and Shane are definitely safe going into 2025, unless they finish like 2-15, which is not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Brian Robinson Jr. is running behind an awful Commanders offensive line, is making a rookie salary contract to Brian Attard's aforementioned point. 17 rushes for 133 yards, averaging barely less than 8 yards per carry. That took so much pressure, Sam, off of Jaden Daniels. And I'm going to be honest with you. Daniel Jones outplayed Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels did not look great in this game. But he looked confident because Robinson was running the football very well. And the difference here, too, is Jaden Daniels is playing behind an awful offensive line in Washington. Andrew Wiley, the left tackle I can't even name. I think it's Brandon Coleman. Tyler Baidaz, they signed from Dallas, overpriced free agent. Sam Cosmi got hurt. Hell, I'll tell you, Marty Joins messaged me back because he was getting his phone repaired last week, which is why he couldn't hop on the show. And I was very happy we got Smalls on. But if he was on, he would have picked the Giants to win. If the Giants had a kicker, they win the football game. And he said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
He said the exact same thing. The Giants couldn't stop the run. They made it very easy for Washington. They were 7 for 14 on 3rd down. And all in all, I mean, these stats don't make sense, right? The defense had 5 sacks, but it doesn't matter. They couldn't stop the run. Every time they went back to pass, it was very minimal usage. Jaden Daniels threw the ball 29 times, sure. But everything was short in front of him because every time they went deep, he was getting sacked. He got sacked 5 times. He couldn't get the ball down deep to Terry McLaurin. 6 catches for 22 yards. Everything, Sam, if you remember, was going short. De'Ami Brown, Austin Eckler had a few catches. Zach Ertz. Nothing was going deep down the field to Terry McLaurin. It was all the running game that set up their success. And that's my biggest takeaway from week 2, Sam, other than Malik Nabers' breakout performance and Dable costing us the game. The run defense is atrocious, and it has to get better.
To go back to the defense for a quick second, talking about Shane Bowen's defense, I I don't know if this is just me, and correct me if you feel a different way. Last year's defense impressed me more than what I've seen so far this season. Would you agree with that?
Through 2 games, yes. I think it's a little unfair to, and I'm agreeing with your point while saying this, Sam.
Sure.
I think it's a little too premature to say Shane Bowen's defense is worse, but at the same time, I think Shane Bowen's defense is completely different from Wink Martindale's, and a lot of the players that the Giants have on their roster, a lot of the veterans like Bobby Okereke, Dexter Lawrence, Jason Pinnock, Micah McFadden, Nunez Roches, they were all brought in to play in Wink Martindale's defense. Now they're having to adjust and learn a new scheme. So although I have not been impressed with Shane Bowen, it's going to take time before we can really evaluate whose defense is better for this team and these players. So there are similarities between the two. The biggest difference is the blitz frequency. Wink loved to blitz. The Giants blitzed more than any other team last year. It was a blitzkrieg, and they couldn't get to the quarterback. Outside of Kayvon Thibodeau, they couldn't get to the quarterback. This year, they're relying on the 4-man rush, and they're not getting there, Sam. Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau look to be non-factors the first 2 weeks. Burns did have a sack that was called back. I think that was the one penalty maybe George was trying to, lean into before earlier in the show, but they can't get there at all. And it's a shame. It's a shame because the defense was carrying last year when the offense stunk. And
I mean, that's kind of those. Again, I know that it's not fair to talk about a team that's only played 2 games so far this season, but you kind of took the words out of my mouth before when I was thinking, the players that were in the defense came in because this was the scheme that they were running with the defense and Wink. And I mean, the defense was, like you said, was carrying us last year. And this year, I'm just not feeling that same strength. Of course, it's only been 2 weeks and we have to see more as the season progresses. But man, I don't even know if I've heard Kayvon's name. I feel like I don't even hear them mentioning him at all, which is crazy because he was our first round draft pick just a couple of years ago now. So it's why is he not just absolutely demolishing everyone on this team, or on the opposing team, I should say.
And Washington's tackles are not good at all.
They're not that great of a football team.
Ahmed, thank you for the comment. This is a mouthful. I'm going to break this down into pieces here. Keeping DJ and Saquon set us back 5 years. People need to stop saying that. Okay, yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you there. And now to the convo at hand. The run D is sus. Bend but don't break. Absolutely. Flott, not 100% inconsistent. He's been a disappointment. Trey Hawkins hasn't seen the field because he's not very good. But at this point, why not? The 4-man rush is a ghost town. Completely agree with you there. I agree with about 90% of what he just said. Thank you for the comment, Ahmed, by the way. Drew Phillips is awesome, but he's a slot corner. There's no valiant number 2 corner, Sam, opposite of Tay Banks. That's why they brought Adoree Jackson back. Flott hasn't panned out. Trey Hawkins hasn't panned out. I think what's going to buy Joe Shane and Brian Dable at least one more season is this. They hit home well on their first 3 draft picks in 2024. They really hit home. I mean, you look at Malik Nabers, Tyler Nubin, who's looked really good so far. He's still blossoming. And Drew Phillips, who, by the way, you look at a corner having 12 tackles, you're like, oh, they must have chopped them up in the pass game. They didn't. 2 of his tackles were in the backfield for a loss. He does not miss tackles. There's a reason why Joe Shane drafted him in the 3rd round, Sam, and that's why you and I named him Player of the Week last week.
Yeah. He went down in the game, right? But it wasn't serious.
Not serious. Nope.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And lastly here, Sam, the offensive line. It was good.
I was so impressed. Seriously. And like the fact that we're getting a rushing touchdown from Devin Singletary is like exhibit A. Like that's just like didn't happen last year at all. I'm very, very happy with the offensive line so far. They're doing their job as, of course there's always room for improvement, but they're getting the job done as they need to. And this team needs, and more than ever, one shining light. And for me right now, it's the offensive line, which is crazy to say because last year we had a completely opposite reaction.
What's up, goofballs? And to Sam's point, appreciate you guys tuning in, by the way. As always, 6th best pass protecting O-line in the NFL over the first 2 weeks. That's according to Next Gen Stats. That's not a PFF stat, guys. That's real stuff. Next Gen Stats is pretty accurate. Yeah, there's nothing to complain about here. Andrew Thomas, John Runyon, John Michael Schmitz has looked solid. Greg Van Roten is the worst one, but he is, like I told you, Sam, he would have been our 2nd best starter last year outside of Andrew Thomas. And then Jermaine Illuminor has been near perfect thus far. They're not getting holding penalties. They're not getting false starts. There's no illegal motion. There's no illegal men downfield call. They're not losing us football games like they were last year. Yeah, that's right. Now we have a line and everything else stinks.
One day everything will line up.
Finally, the Giants became the first team in NFL history to score 3 touchdowns, allow none, and lose the game.
Unreal. 7 field goals. 7. Unreal. But like, it's funny and like I was talking to other Giants fans and stuff, and they're like, if you're gonna lose, this is the way to lose. Like you don't want to lose, but like we had a good game. And that was kind of like what we were expecting this whole time, like we just want them to play a good game. I was shocked that we didn't win this game. It was definitely a win with a kicker, like we keep saying, but it's true. It's true. I don't know who had Siebert in fantasy, but good for you. Good for you.
He's good. He's very, very good. What's up, Robert? Appreciate the comment. I know we're playing you guys later this year. Sam, your brother, big Steelers fan. So thank you. What up, Cold G? Steve, appreciate you as always. Still living out in Arizona, Steve? See what he says. But yeah, Sam, let's get to our player of the week. I think this is pretty obvious. Who do we choose?
We went very easy, but he really showed up and shined out for us. Malik Nabers, our rookie, our player of the week, our rookie of the week. Just fantastic. 10 receptions for 127 yards, averaging 12.7, 1 touchdown on 18 total targets. And 6th overall in the draft, obviously, that we just got from LSU. And those LSU receivers are no freaking joke. Accounted for 18 of the Giants' 27 targets, like we mentioned earlier. Highest target share at 66.7% by any player in a game in 9 years. Be my neighbors. I love that. That's one of my fantasy football team names is Will You Be My Neighbors? 108 yards after carry, 8th in the NFL. 193 receiving yards, 4th in the NFL, 25 targets, 3rd in the NFL, 15 receptions, 2nd in the NFL, and 9 first down receptions, which is 1st in the NFL. That is why you draft Malik Nabers and utilize him in your offense.
Yeah, and Sam, once he caught the ball, he knows what he's doing. He is so tough to bring down. He gets away from the tackler and runs for another 15 yards.
Yeah. Which is like so refreshing, right? Mm-hmm. For us to see. to see a receiver have a plan after they get the ball. A lot of times our receivers, no offense to Isaiah Hodgins or any of these guys, they are good football players. But man, Malik Nabers is a breath of freaking fresh air for us. It is wonderful to see. And I know people have talked about OBJ. I know people have brought it up several times because he also went to LSU. I think Malik Nabers could outshine Odell Beckham Jr. in his career. But I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I like that, Sam. 5 years from now, we go back to this.
Mm-hmm.
You called it first.
I'd like to say that I did.
Mm-hmm. So, a couple comments. Yes, still in Arizona. Thank you very much, Robert. Love you, man. Appreciate the comments. This is a Giant show, so unfortunately, no Steelers talk tonight, but we will talk about the Steelers when we play you within the next couple months. All right, so what do the Giants do? They poach a kicker off a good practice squad. Greg Joseph from the Detroit Lions. For those of you folks who don't remember, Greg Joseph was the Vikings kicker against us in the 2022 playoff game. He's kicked for them the last 3 seasons, did not play during the COVID year in 2020. Also spent some time with the Browns and the Titans. And Sam, he holds the NFL record for 5 game-winning kicks in a single season with the Minnesota Vikings. And to be quite honest with you, all of those close games we were winning in 2022, the Vikings were winning them as well. They won 13 games in 22, and a lot of them are because of Greg Joseph. So There's some stuff to take away here from this. By the way, 30-year-old born in South Africa. Very interesting.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that. But I mean, definitely a great guy to have on our team here and to come in for Gano, because if you think about it, a lot of our games usually come down pretty close and comes down to a field goal. So to have somebody like that reliable enough to make sure that if we have a game-winning field goal to kick, this is the guy that's in there, I feel pretty confident about it.
Absolutely. And also he's very good with his touchback percentage. Graham Gano heads to IR. He'll miss the next 4 weeks. Second IR stint for Gano in the past 2 seasons. Kickers should not be getting hurt this much. At 37 years old, you start to wonder about Graham Gano and if his days in the NFL are numbered. Sadly, I don't say that with any pleasure.
Yeah.
Giants also claimed a Philadelphia Eagle who played in Brazil against the Packers. Patrick Johnson joins the Giants. And this move makes sense, Sam. Darius Muasau did not play last week. Carter Coughlin potentially out for the season with a torn pec. Matthew Adams, who they signed to replace Cam Brown, is out on IR too for at least the next 3 games. And yeah, this is where we're at. Our linebacker room stands right now. Bobby Okereke, Micah McFadden, Isaiah Simmons, and Ty Summers, who's on the practice squad. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, not pretty good guys, though. Won't lie. I do love all the names of those linebackers, but yeah, pretty small.
It is pretty small. I'll tell you one Giants player or former Giants player who was not small, and that's Eli Manning.
Our king.
Yes.
First year nomination to the Hall of Fame.
And in my prediction, a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Absolutely. I think so.
Sam, you met him in person last week.
I did.
Not your first time meeting him, though, right?
I have met him before, all through work. But last week he was so in on Daniel Jones. I will tell you, he loved talking about him. We kind of asked him, like, is this it? And he goes, I really, really hope not. I really hope that Daniel Jones is going to be in blue for a while. I don't think that that's true. I'm sure that that's just Eli speaking from the heart there. But man, he was wonderful to speak to. He's very kind. He's a great guy and 100% deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Also, Steve, sorry I missed this. Love the jersey. Thank you. Super Bowl 25. Was not alive for that one, but I've rewatched the game several times, or I've watched the game several times, I should say. So Curtis Bolton is back on the practice squad. He was on the 53 for a cup of coffee. They did a little roster shuffling there, Steve, and he's back on the practice squad, but he's still around. Like Ty Summers, they've been elevating Ty Summers over him because I think of experience. But yeah, Bolton is still around too. I guess they thought, let's add Patrick Johnson, see what he could do. Add another name into the mix there. But back to Eli. Yeah, look, I hate to say this, but Eli's watching a lesser version of himself that has more mobility. He is watching a guy under center quarterback the Giants who looks like him and acts like him. And that's why you're getting the answers I think, Sam, that you're getting, because he loves Daniel Jones, right? That was the right guy to replace Eli Manning at that time. That's who they wanted, and the 2019 draft class was not great. It was just bad timing, and picking him number 6 was an issue. I still, to this day, don't think Eli Manning should have been benched after 2 weeks by Pat Shurmur. But ultimately, 2 Super Bowl championships, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, the most passing yards in a single postseason of all time. I mean, not missing a start in over 210 games due to injury. And also just the way he led the Giants, Sam. I mean, he made everybody around him better. Like, you know, back in the day, and I really don't want to hit much on Odell here, but Eli was the best quarterback Odell ever had. Let's be real. Like, you know, like his career sort of took a turn down south once he left the Giants. Look at Victor Cruz. Victor Cruz admits it.
Yeah.
He went to the Chicago Bears. He couldn't do anything with them. Mario Manningham. You know, Eli was put in a great situation at the time that he came in, and he won playoff games. He was very resilient. Once a Giant, only a Giant. Eli Manning definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. What's up? No Dog Dibler. Eli's a legend, and the Giants are finished. Ugh. Brutal.
Thanks for beating the Eagles on Monday, Noah.
Yes. Thank you
Appreciate
for that. Eagles have now lost 7 out of their last 8 on the continent of North America, for those of you Eagles fans watching. So
that's a fantastic statistic.
And if you want some optimism as a Giants fan, Nick Sirianni did not say a word to the team post-game in the locker room. But,
God, I hate that guy.
Okay, Steve. Love that. My older brother he was born in 86, so he was not alive for all 4. But he was alive for 3. The Browns.
The Browns.
So we're heading to week 3. We're heading to Cleveland. Personally, Sam, I don't know what to think of this game because, to be honest with you, the Browns have 15 players on the injury report. They are decimated. But last week, I think what concerns me most about Cleveland, and you can tell me if you agree, is their defense, highlighted by Myles Garrett, former Giant Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, Jeremiah Owusu-Karamoah. They sacked Trevor Lawrence 4 times last week on a promotional day where Everbank Field was named Trevor Bank Field. Trevor Lawrence looked atrocious. Well, it was not just him. He had no time to throw the football. Browns get their first win of the season. They got blown out by the Cowboys in week 1. Last time these teams played, 2020, Baker was still quarterback. They won that game 20-6. And Sam, the Giants have not beaten the Browns in Cleveland in a long time. In a long time. The Browns. Do you remember the season where the season after 42, where the Giants were like 10-1, 11-1? That first loss
was the Browns.
The Browns.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because the Browns don't seem that scary of a team when I'm seeing them just, playing anybody else. But thinking about them playing us, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Okay. I don't think their offense is that strong. Um, and I do believe that this will be, hopefully for us as well, a defensive battle because, I mean, Miles Garrett alone is just a freaking animal. And now that they have Tomlinson and JOK, they just they're monsters. So that's what I'm mostly concerned about. But overall, I do feel like this. I, I don't know. Maybe it's just the touchdowns from last week that got me excited. But I'm like, this is a doable game, right? Like, I feel like this game is a winnable game for us. It's not like we're completely tossing it. Browns have not looked good at all. Sean Watson looks like he's not getting paid an ungodly amount of money. It's crazy how this Browns team has kind of fallen apart despite them putting so much time and effort and money into it. But that's just me.
Yeah, they should have never moved on from Baker Mayfield, but they did, and now they're stuck with a fully guaranteed quarterback who is not living up to the hype of his contract. For me, Sam, the Browns are a team that relies on two things: their running game and their defense. And with their running game comes strong offensive line play. And we know the Browns over the years have had a phenomenal offensive line where you could throw almost anybody back in there running back, whether it's Nick Chubb, who's still recovering from last season's injury, Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt, who's now back on the Kansas City Chiefs, Pierre Strong. Those guys all run well, and it's because of the line they have up front, like center Ethan Pochich, guards Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio. In my opinion, the best guard combination in the NFL. And then the two tackles in Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin, who are both hurt. Conklin trending towards playing. Wills, I'm not sure, but even their swing tackle, DeJuan Jones, would start on most NFL teams. So it's one of those things where Cleveland's identity on offense is running the football, and then their identity on defense is stopping the run and pressuring the quarterback. It's a winning formula. Stefanski's an old school coach, and the Browns have overachieved the last few years since he's been there. He doesn't need a good quarterback to win football games. And that was demonstrated last year. It was. And they want to play, or they made the playoffs with Joe Flacco.
That was cinematic. For real. I kind of loved watching Joe Flacco play football again.
Yeah. Should have kept him. Should have kept him. So, Sam, let's talk about keys to the game here. We'll start with the Giants.
Okay.
Name one or two things. What needs to be done to beat this Cleveland team, old school team, run the football, smash mouth style? How do they beat them? Obviously, very different opponent from Washington in week 2.
100%. I think that, especially going off of everything that you were just saying about how the Browns do win football games. I mean, we just spoke earlier in the show about how impressed we were with this offensive line. Continue to be that good offensive line and make sure that Daniel Jones does not get beaten to a pulp every single play. Like that is a huge thing because you have Myles Garrett coming at you at 15 miles an hour. It's not something that we want to see going, especially with Daniel Jones, especially if even with a loss, Daniel Jones is feeling a little bit more confident in himself with the touchdowns that he got on the board last week and 0 interceptions. Let's keep that confidence up. Let's continue to be a good offensive line. And let's see an improvement in this defense. Let's shift. Let's figure out the best way to stop the run because at the end of the day, that is how they're going to put points on the board unless Deshaun Watson starts flinging it in the air to Amari Cooper or something, and I just don't see that happening. So on the ground, get that done, and just the offensive line just needs to keep doing what they have been doing.
I think here's a fun stat you'll want to hear. Amari Cooper has been targeted 17 times throughout the first 2 games.
Oh, boy.
17 times. He
Yeah.
has 5 catches for 27 yards.
Oh, I didn't know it was that bad. I
Mhm.
knew that it really was not, they weren't really clicking as much as Amari has with some of these past quarterbacks. Because Amari Cooper is a very good wide receiver and is very reliable. And Deshaun Watson just does not seem to be able to get the ball in his hands for whatever reason. I don't think it's Amari's fault at all. I think that it's all Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, if this play continues, I mean, there's got to be a chance you see Jameis Winston in this game.
At this point, I think everyone would rather watch James Winston.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I'm not the biggest Winston guy, but I
I love
mean,
James Winston.
he hasn't really gotten a starting opportunity since 2021, the year after Drew Brees
With the
retired.
Saints, right? Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't think Winston's a bad quarterback. He's a very good backup, in my
I
opinion. But
agree.
for me, my keys to the game, get the ball to Malik Nabers, please. Just constantly target him. He loves the targets. He's very hard on himself. He's going to look to get some payback after last weekend. Denzel Ward, who on paper is a very, very good press man corner, Sam, he has not looked good over the past 2 seasons. His numbers have been a little bit deflated. And I think Malik Nabers could really exploit him in this department. I'm also thinking a potentially big game from Darius Slayton because he's going up against Greg Newsome. Greg Newsome is a guy who's been battling injury since entering the NFL. He's on a contract year. And every time, I mean, I knew Daniel Jones was going to play well last week and get his receivers the ball. Every time we're almost ready to move on from Daniel Jones, and either he gets benched or he gets moved on from, he reels you back in
Mm-hmm.
like a fish. And it's so difficult to want to move on from him. And trust me, I still do want to move on from Daniel Jones, but
Okay.
I think he's going to play well again. I do. I think he's going to play a good game. And he looked more confident last week against Washington. And, part of it was him. Part of it was Carmen Brasillo. Jones has only gotten sacked 6 times. And I think getting the ball to Malik Nabers is important. And the new scheme in front of him, the offensive line, allows him time to get Malik Nabers the football. And if you're a one-read quarterback, which sometimes I hate to admit it, Jones is, Malik Nabers is that first read.
Mm-hmm.
And if you throw it near him,
He's gonna get it.
mm-hmm,
9 times out of 10.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then for me, it's, pressuring Deshaun Watson. Giants defense had 5 sacks last week, and none of them came from Burns or Thibodeau. Right now, here's the Browns injury report as of today. So DeJuan Jones, swing tackle, did not practice with a knee. Jedrick Wills limited with a knee. Jack Conklin full also with a knee. So Conklin will likely play. Wills is questionable. DeJuan Jones, I don't know. It's already Wednesday and he hasn't practiced yet, so he has to get at least 1 or 2 limited sessions in there, potentially starting with tomorrow. That's not looking too good. So Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns on paper will have a much difficult matchup. These are better tackles than what Washington presented, but they're banged up at the same time. So you want to get pressure on Watson and make him confused. Dexter Lawrence against Ethan Pocic should be a phenomenal matchup on the interior. And yeah, overall, I think you want to getting pressure will help you win that turnover battle, Sam, that ever so important turnover battle. And when you're looking at things, you get pressure. I think you win this football game because the Browns have not forced a turnover yet this season.
Mm-hmm.
So all in all, I think if the Giants do that, they have a real chance to win. As we will move on to our next segment, players to watch. And Sam, I'll start with you here. I guess you can call this, what is it, the Dalvin Tomlinson revenge game?
Yeah, sure.
Is he on your list here, potentially?
Yeah. I would say I feel like I'm incorporating a lot of what we talked about earlier with my keys to the game and my players to watch. Dalvin Tomlinson and Myles Garrett are 2 guys that I am 100% keeping my eye on because like this is not an easy feat. You know, like this is tough. It is not the easy guys to go up against. So those guys are 100% in my line of sight watching this game. I'm also going to toss in Amari Cooper, like we were talking about earlier. I know that we just mentioned that he's only has 5 catches on 17 attempts, but knowing the Giants' defense, Amari Cooper could have this game pop off. So just something to keep our eyes on. I'm not saying that he's gonna, have a gajillion touchdowns or anything like that, but just knowing that stat and knowing our defense, just want to keep close eye on Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I also think with Kevin Stefanski reporting today that tight end David Njoku's status is heavily in doubt for Sunday's game. He's not going to play. It's a lot more pressure on Cooper, and he's getting a lot more attention, which is opening up lanes for Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore. And Jerry Jeudy last week had 98 receiving yards. He was solid. Elijah Moore, high volume guy. I think at tight end it'll be Jordan Akins stepping in for Njoku. Njoku's always hurt. The Browns are always hurt. Play aside, Watson's always hurt. So it's not like they really have much consistency going for them there. And for me defensively for the Browns, Sam, it's Jeremiah Owusu-Karamo is my guy. You remember me hyping him up that one year on the draft show.
Yeah.
I love him. Sideline to sideline scraper. Really, really fun to watch. And, yeah, playing behind Myles Garrett, that's tough. And I don't know about you, but that Andrew Thomas-Myles Garrett matchup, must-see TV.
I would agree. Definitely going to be good. But hopefully – Andrew Thomas gets a little bit more push on him there, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. A lot of respect for Myles Garrett. He just continues to pour it on every single year, even during the bad seasons. He's been there since 2017. I believe he's the longest. No, he's not. I believe it's Bitonio who's longest tenured Brown, but Garrett's up there.
2017. I can't believe he's been there for that long. And you're 100% right. Every year, no matter what the Browns are doing, Myles Garrett is popping off. I mean, didn't he just win Defensive Player of the Year like 2 years ago? It's like he's no freaking joke. I met Myles Garrett at the Super Bowl. His thighs, I'm not exaggerating. They're this big, each of them. So this guy is no freaking joke.
I'm not one to base my judgment on a player off of stats, but let's just take a look at this quickly. 2023, Sam, 14 sacks. 2022 and 2021, 16 sacks, each of those 2 seasons. 2020, he had 12. He only played 14 games, though.
That's really impressive, though.
2019, he played only 10 games. Still had 10 sacks. 2018, 13 and a half sacks. His rookie year, he had 7. He's never had a season below 7 sacks.
I mean, rookie season getting 7 sacks is in and of itself, like, fantastic. You play 10 games, you get 10 sacks. You're averaging 1 sack per game. It's pretty damn good.
And since 2021, he has not missed the start. So, I mean, he's phenomenal. And he's still only 28 years old. So he still has game left in him a lot.
That's crazy. I thought he was 30. He's young.
Yeah. He was I believe he was the number 1 overall pick in 2017, right? 2017 NFL draft.
Yes.
That long ago. Yep. Myles Garrett was number.
We were both still in college at that time, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep. Mitch Trubisky was number 2.
Yeah, Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes is in that draft.
10, 11, right?
Yeah. Yep. Quickly here for the Giants. We'll flip the script. Who's going to have a big game on Sunday?
I'm gonna take something from what you said earlier in the show, and I'm gonna say Darius Slayton. We had some really big plays from Malik Nabers, and he's definitely a player to watch, 100%. But just to get a little bit more of a deep cut in there, like Darius Slayton, technically our veteran wide receiver, right? Like he's the guy who's been around for quite some time now. I think that he deserves a bit more love, and if they're going to be all over Malik Nabers after seeing what he was doing last week, and like you said, going up against Greg Newsome, get the ball to Slayton. Why not? You know? And I'm going to say Devin Singletary too, because I'd love to see him get another touchdown next week.
I love him too. He's so good. I mean, you never really have to worry about him not playing well because his floor is very, very high.
Yeah.
So again, he's not a burner. I mean, he's quick, but he's not Saquon. He's not going to run 70 yards down the field.
Motor, as they call him.
Yeah. Obviously, Malik Nabers is one, but I mean, based off matchups, we talked about Andrew Thomas. A player that I think is going to have a really good game this week. I think Bobby Okereke is going to play very well, like he does every week. I think the fact that Watson looks lost out there, Okereke is going to be spying him the whole game, and it's going to be a problem. I think the biggest factor to the Giants getting their run stopping back on track is the interior defensive line winning their matchups against the Browns, which is not easy to do. But at least with Bobby Okereke back there, you know you'll get a steady hit on that second level. And I think Bobby Okereke's play has really developed Micah McFadden, who McFadden is he's back healthy. That's another guy too. Like, he's been around. This is his third year now. He's a starter. Nobody talks about him.
I know. And he's great.
Mm-hmm.
He really is. It's
And
like he does so well that it's almost like you don't need to talk about him because he's doing his job. He's like a good student, you know, like nobody pays attention to the good student because they know they're going to do their job. That's Micah McFadden.
And he's playing next to Okereke, and they play the same position, so that's also part of it too.
And Isaiah Simmons.
Yes. But yeah, both of those linebackers are going to have a good game. I'm going to throw one curveball in here. Rookie tight end Theo Johnson out of Penn State. I think he has a good game.
I like that.
If they can protect Daniel Jones, I expect the Giants to get more vertical down the field on this team to get Theo Johnson the ball. And I was a little bummed out that Gabby couldn't join us tonight because I know the whole FanDuel connection. I was thinking we could do our little Giants-Browns parlay.
Oh, that would have been great.
A little sample parlay, spice up the end of the show a little bit, do a parlay. And I'm debating taking the over on Theo Johnson's yards for Sunday's game. So, and I'll be honest with you, Sam, I'm a big tight ends guy. If I was Dan Duggan, Paul Schwartz, or Jordan Renat, I'd be sitting there in the room asking Brian Daboll, why aren't you throwing the ball to Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson? Why are they not getting the football?
I feel like I think about this every week. I don't understand why we're not utilizing our tight ends. It's like, even like you see 49ers, George Kittle's blocking all the time. George Kittle does not get a ton of receptions, but when he does, he's on the money. It's like, yes, use your tight ends for blocking. Totally fine. But, man, throw them in the mix sometimes. Daniel Bellinger's been on the team now for 2 years? 3 years?
His third year now. He's in his third year.
Third year. How many touchdowns does he have as a Giant?
3, and they all came his rookie year.
Literally. Didn't score a single touchdown this year. Insane. I 100% agree with you. Get the tight ends more involved.
The Browns do it. that's how they get by. And looking at the injury report this week for them, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. Before we get to our game predictions, I just want to point out the DNPs today. DeJuan Jones, swing tackle, did not practice. Njoku likely out. Pierre Strong nursing a hamstring. Jamari Thrash is battling an illness. Wide receiver Myles Garrett has a foot injury, did not practice. That's likely maintenance for him. He's definitely going to play. They're just limiting his practice this week. And then Wills was limited on the line. Conklin played in full. And then one Brown we didn't mention, Sam, Zadarius Smith.
Oh, gotcha.
Zadarius Smith.
Jerry Jeudy.
Why was there somebody? Yeah, him. Jeudy.
I completely forgot Jerry Jeudy was on the Browns. But
yeah, so he actually scored a touchdown last week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I feel like he didn't really get a fair shake in Denver because of the quarterback play. They went from Russ to who was quarterback last year? I can't even remember. Was it? No, it was Russ again.
Denver?
Yeah, it was Russ again.
It was Russell, yeah.
But who was 2021? They definitely, I forget who their quarterback was. That's how bad they were. And then this season, it's Bo Nix, and now Jeudy finally is not relied on as the number one wide receiver, and I think that really benefits him. And although I don't think Deshaun Watson is great, he athletically wise, he's a better passer than Bo Nix is. He's probably a better passer than some of the quarterbacks that Judy's been catching balls from. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens this week with Jerry Jeudy. That was a really good point.
You know who was their quarterback in 2021? Teddy Bridgewater. That's why you don't remember who it was. And Drew Lock was backing him up.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Before he went to Seattle.
So, yep.
Damn, that is kind of crazy to think about.
A little bit of a weird full circle-ish kind of moment for them.
Here we are. Folks, time to drop your predictions. If you have any, feel free to comment. Sam, we'll start with you. Who's winning this game, and what's your final score?
You know, I was really thinking about this as we were talking about it in the show, and I feel like I'm feeling a bit confident this week. I really, as long as that offensive line continues to give Daniel Jones the time he needs, it gives him that confidence to throw the ball, to get it to Malik Nabers. I think that the Giants could sneak a win. I'm not going to say that it's going to be a big margin. I'm going to say 20-16 Giants. It'll be a little bit close, but there'll be a small cushion there. But I'm feeling kind of good.
So you only have the Browns scoring one touchdown, is that correct?
I said 16. I said 16.
So
yeah, well, it'll be a mix of things.
Yeah. So, and I asked that because, like you, I also have the Browns scoring 16 points, but I only have the Giants scoring 14.
Fair.
I'm literally like, Sam, I'm 55-45 on this game right now. And I think what concerns me the most is that historically the Giants don't play well in Cleveland, right?
Fair.
And I'm just looking to see what they did to Trevor Lawrence last week. Now, okay, Trevor Lawrence on a bad day is still better than Daniel Jones, in my personal opinion. However, his line is atrocious. Daniel Jones's line is much better. So that could be the reason why, the Giants could possibly sneak this one out and the Jaguars couldn't. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens. And Troy, to answer the question, I don't know. That's a big problem. It's a big problem. Washington had 37 minutes of ball control last week. Giants had the ball for under 23 minutes. No, they couldn't win. They couldn't win. That's why, they gave up only field goals, but Washington was holding the ball and they scored on literally every possession. So, 16-14. Cleveland, Giants dropped to 0-3. However, next week's prediction, depending on what happens with Dallas, might be a little surprising for some people back at home. This could be one of those seasons where, they get off to an atrocious start, and then the Giants start winning games they're not supposed to win. So I think that could be how this season goes right now, personally, for me. But I would not be shocked if the Giants pull this off at all. I think Cleveland is not as good as what people are saying.
Mhm.
And I actually think the Giants are closer on level to the Browns than, let's say, the Browns are on level to, I don't know, a team like the Steelers, right? I think the Giants could probably sneak this one out. If the Giants played Pittsburgh right now, I would say Pittsburgh definitely wins by 1, possibly even 2 possessions. Cleveland, I can't say the same thing. So that is my prediction.
Love it.
I really don't want to go 0-3. I really don't, but
I don't either.
it's
I
pain.
think that's what's projecting through me right now. It's like 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. I'm just trying to push it into the universe.
And Dable is not a horrible coach. He's just a hothead. That's what it is.
He's very emotional.
And he's strict. You could tell. Like he's not Joe Judge strict, but he's strict. I really hope they win this week so we don't have to hear idiots like Pat Leonard again saying that he should be on the hot seat. So, but Sam, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. This has been a lot of fun. Everyone in the comments section, you have been great. Sam, any final parting words here for the Giants fans watching before we head into Sunday?
I would say we're just keeping our heads as high as possible. It wasn't a bad game last week. We could get through that again. Just gotta pivot, and let's go in with a little bit more excitement into this upcoming week as opposed to last week.
Perfectly said. I couldn't agree more. Giants are going to continue to improve week by week. This is not the Carolina Panthers, guys. Let's.
Thank God.
They are not that level bad. I'm telling you.
They're not that bad.
Telling you. But, folks, if you like what you watched tonight here on Big Blue Avenue, there is our social media below, scrolling across our ticker. Links are also on the description of this video. YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter are the places to find us right now at Big Blue Avenue. On behalf of Sam Cardona Norberg, I am Tom Scavetta, wishing you all a good evening. Happy Sunday. Hopefully the Giants pull out a big dub heading into week 4 against Dallas. Without further ado, let's go Big Blue.